Uh, well, good evening. Today's Airport Advisory Committee meeting on November 3rd, 2020. Call to order. First thing we'll start off with is public comment. And public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action item. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak specifically to the agenda item. You can also call in, and that's 702-589-9629. Now, anybody want to speak public comment? I guess we should just wait for the phone calls, if any of them come in. Okay, Bob.
Good evening, Bob Fonestock, Boulder City Airport Properties and BFE. In regards to agenda items, 1 through 6, I'd like to make the following comments. As far as the previous community events that have been at the airport, most of the ones in my recent memory have been held at my property. And that was back in the day when I felt like there was some camaraderie and goodwill at the airport that was worth sharing. I don't feel those same things, same regards today. As far as the temporary flight restrictions, we've had a number of those this year. They pretty much go on without little or no notice from the community, even though the airport has been extremely busy during these TFRs, and we've been able to service the customers and get them in and out of Boulder City with not much fanfare, but as far as TFR goes, or the community get-togethers, or whatever you might want to talk about, there needs to be a general reawakening at the airport and people getting back on the same page. Before I'd want to call together a celebration, I'd want to find out, why Skydive is no longer here after many, many years at the airport, and why are there just so many issues at the airport, including my fuel trailer and the litigation, weaponizing the fire department, the police department, and code enforcement. It's just seems to me that we need to not look so far down the road with these types of activities and get back to some sort of semblance of order where, I can't even communicate with the airport admin right now because of litigation. And as per my lease, I have to be able to communicate with them. But there's a lot of communicating needs to be done, and we should start somewhere with maybe a community get-together, but to be more about just the aviators and the airport management and the city management getting together, especially with the new managers and attorneys that are involved now, and hope that we can get back on track with something that resembles much more of an airport than the ghost town that it is today. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah, you can call in at 702-589-9629. Well, Lisa, if you want to read comment, start something off.
Okay. There's one public comment to be read. I was afraid. Okay, thank you. Okay.
And then when they call, just towards the phone.
Gotcha. This is from John Gustafson. Good evening, AAC members, Airport Manager Woolley, and city staff. My name is John Gustafson, Boulder City resident, hangar owner, pilot, and Boulder City business owner. My public comment tonight is regarding information in the packet, Resolution 6740, the duties of the AAC. It is my belief that the AAC under Resolution 6740 is flawed, as it does not allow AAC members to represent the major categories of airport interests. I believe that the AAC can better support the airport manager as an effective body if 6740 was amended to represent at least the following airport areas of concern. Number 1, airport facility and operations, including fuel and financial oversight. Number 2, airport hangars, hangar owners, and tenants. Number 3, airport FBO and non-FBO operations. Number 4, airport commercial operations. Number 5, the Boulder City public. Please consider a future meeting agenda that includes a working group approach to improving the AAC process, preferably at the airport. Thank you. And that's the end of the public comment.
Okay, so it doesn't look like we're going to get any phone calls, so why don't we close public comment and go on to the agenda. And so for first is for possible action and approval of the May 5th, 2020 meeting minutes. Do we have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Okay, so let's have a vote to all A's, or anybody agree? Aye. Aye. No nays, so motion carries. Okay, so we'll start agenda 2 is the discussion of planning for previous and future community events. Anybody want to start with the discussion?
I'd like to start it by as the AAC is. Oh yeah, I knew that. Okay. Okay, good. I have a question. The question is, do we really know what our role is, the AAC, of course, as far as interaction with the city, the public, the airport personnel, etc.? Maybe you do. Help me.
I can talk about that. Yes, we do. I mean, our previous mayor made this resolution that is referred to in our packet here today. Basically, there's only really one clause in that resolution and it basically allows us the ability to discuss matters pertinent to the airport. But everything else is just community events and public outreach and things like that we can discuss. But we really don't have any teeth. Obviously, nothing that we do is binding upon the city. But that resolution does describe what the previous mayor, and I guess it was approved by city council, what they saw as our role. which, and then Mr. Gustafson has many times suggested that we have more representation of the different factions out there at the airport and including the community on this board. But here again, that's not something that we have any authority to change ourselves. I mean, obviously we can discuss it. It can be put on the agenda, I suppose, and then we could make a recommendation to City Council. But as you well know, they haven't been too keen on listening to the airport board for quite some time now, and so it's a bit discouraging. And but yes, we do have that, and if you want to look at it, it's printed out in its entirety in several of our previous agenda packets. Yeah, but that's all we really have, and so yeah, that's my answer to your question.
May I ask you a question, sir? Along the same basis,
Yeah, go ahead.
but based upon what I'm hearing, my statement would be we have no authority, credibility. Well, we probably have some credibility. We have no authority. We cannot make decisions unless others are willing to act on our decisions. Those two about right?
Well, I mean, I think it's even more problematic than that, because even when it's spelled out what our authority is or what we can request, we can make the request, but city staff can just say, we're not going to do it.
Right. Nobody listens to us.
Well, it's even worse than that, because this is essentially spelled by the city council. The city council says, yes, this is what we do. And when we say as members of this body, we make a request, we're making it, and it coincides with the city council through this resolution, then it's, from my opinion, that we are complying with the city council's wishes. So when city staff would say, no, we're not going to talk about it, well, that's not really city staff's prerogative to not talk about it and not comply. And that's what happened at the last meeting that was vacated. I requested to have something placed on the agenda. It was written through emails. The agenda item was placed in time, and it was regarding the dissemination of news, and I was rejected. So, I mean, if your point is, what are we doing here? I mean, if we're here because we have nothing better to do on an election day, I somewhat agree with you.
That's a response. I mean, you know.
So that's my point. Go ahead. Anybody jump in?
Yeah, I'll just jump in on the item itself, where we're talking about the initiating planning for community events at the airport. In trying to be as positive as I possibly can, I have to agree with what Mr. Fonstock said earlier. We've got a real problem out there at the airport, where I don't know anybody that really wants to have an event, that is proud enough of the airport to have an event, with the way the city has treated us, and the way the city has treated the FBO, the way the city has treated the skydive operation, all the things that made our airport vibrant, that made us proud of our airport, that made us want to have events. Those are gone, and you know, there's that the city has displayed their hostility towards the the airport community, and pilots and hangar owners, and so there's just really, you know, maybe there's somebody out there that's more excited about having an event, but I wouldn't know who they were, and so that's about all I have to say.
I agree. You want to add anything? Okay, so,
I guess to say one more thing here, I think we've got to get some time behind us, like Bob was saying. We got to do something to try to get that ball rolling again. And I don't know if that would include some private events, or you know, because we've done a few of those in the past. But our airport doesn't seem that interested in us, and it's pretty hard to feel interested in promoting the airport. It seems to have turned into a place where we land airplanes, we take airplanes off, and we park them, and we work on them once in a while. And if you know, we can't really get fuel from I haven't been able to. Fuel system isn't working. It's just difficult. It's not a happy time, and so I'd be open to any suggestions of what we could do, but that's kind of where we got some real morale issues.
I've got another comment I'd like to make. I honestly believe, right or wrong, city staff made decisions that they thought was correct. Just like when we discuss something, we believe something, we feel that's correct. Is it inappropriate? Is it not our role to see what we can do to get everybody to just make nice and go back to where we were once before? The way I said that, but making nice will work.
Anybody else?
I see what you're saying, Gary. But the general feeling out there that I've, you know, and I talk to a lot of people on a regular basis, and I'm just not seeing it. You know, people, it's just as we predicted. People are just going to do their thing, and I'm not hearing. You know, for example, this has been put on the agenda. This has been made public. There is no one calling in saying, you know, Rich Moynihan, the president of the Hangar Association, nobody's calling in and saying, hey, we want to have a get together. We want to do this. It hasn't generated enough interest to even get anyone here, let alone anyone calling in, you know, from the comfort of their home. And so we may need a little more time to pass, or possibly some more action towards revitalizing the airport. And some of this may have to do with the whole COVID thing, which is obviously psychologically difficult for people, and you know, obviously it's extremely difficult for the tour operators, the commercial operators down at the airport. That's been an extreme difficulty. And anyway, it's just the whole situation has been a tough one. We feel like we've been, many of us feel like we've been betrayed by our city, and nobody really wants to get together, as evidenced by the empty seats here and the absence of phone calls. So I really don't know what else to say about that besides table it for future use, or for the future, and see if anybody gets excited about it.
Well, I'd just like to add, just like as you had mentioned, Kurt, is, you know, this was really somewhat predictable as far as what was to happen, and it's unfortunate if it's taking anybody by surprise other than the actual users of the airport. This is, I mean, all I can say is it's, all I can say is gosh, that's got to be almost bordering line on ineptness if you can't look at the long-term consequences of making, you know, essentially hurting your customer base, or hurting, and this goes on to a conversation that I had with the airport manager over in Salem, in which his big concern was, okay, well, what do I have afterwards, you know, when I make these decisions? You know, what's the airport going to be like? You know, of all things, one of the things that we've constantly, you know, I'm now 59 years old. I've been flying since I was 16 years old. That airports have always been a community. They've always been a great place to hang out, to be around, to, you know, even when I was a young kid at 16 years old, I would be mentored by the older, more experienced pilots or mechanics or around. And that's really a sad, you know, what I see is because just to kind of go through, I swept that hangar out at the old airport when I was 16 years old. And that's all I would do is just hang out at the airport. And I don't, unfortunately, see that happening. This is like I said, it's the unintended consequence. And I guess we all have to just carry on. But we have, I don't know how to reverse this. That's not really my doing. And I don't know what we could do is maybe, yeah, I don't know. But that's all I have to add.
I just wanted to ask one question. Mr. Goodfellow has mentioned numerous events in the past. I've only been here for a year, and what with COVID and a variety of other things, there hasn't been, there's not going to be any events this year. But I'm wondering, when in the past, when was the last time there was, a event at the airport that was kind of a community thing? Young Eagles or anything.
I haven't seen any activity of that sort for probably the last 5 years or so now that I can think of. And there just doesn't seem to be any interest level. It's been a real problem. We have just no interest.
Was it Menshaw when he was managing? I mean, we used to have the airport day when they would open up the airport for a day, give the rides, people put their airplanes out, but it's probably been that long or a little longer.
Harry Ahern did that a few times also.
Okay.
And that's pretty much where it ended.
It took some work, but it was fun. We always got a pretty good turnout out there.
Yeah.
Anything else to add? Okay, so we'll move on to that'd be number 3, discussion past and future temporary flight restrictions, TFRs. I guess that's for staff to introduce.
Yeah, so we have a situation where this year we've had a variety of TFRs in the area, and they've affected Boulder City. And that comes and goes. There's a variety of reasons for TFRs, as we all know, and they happen really on short notice. But I think that, I wrote this down for TFRs, but I think it's more broad than just TFRs. The thing is, the FAA comes out with, for an example, a TFR, and then we will do basically whatever we can to get the word out, whether it's emails, post flyers. I mean, there's a variety of things that we do for any number of outreaches to our tenants. But this year we had 3 different situations where people from flying out of Boulder City broke the TFR. And, I know one of them was transient, and I know one of them was based here, and the other 2 I don't have all the information on. But, what I'm wondering is, what I'm asking for in this is not a plan today, but, maybe next AAC meeting, if we could hash over some ideas that you guys could do for continuing the outreach for our fellow tenants. I don't know. I'm asking for the AAC's plan and help, within like 3 months for a method to get the information out further. We give you guys the information, and then you can jet it out to everybody else, or however.
I, for one, first of all, I'd like to thank you guys for the efforts that you've made to get that information out. I'm one of those that broke a TFR several years ago. I had no idea, and I'm not proud of it, but I just had no idea. And so first thing I did was joined AOPA, which they do send out to your phone a reminder, which has been a blessing for me, kept me from doing something stupid again. But the stuff that you guys have done, putting the notices on the little gate box, sending out the notice to us, I've been very grateful for that. You know, I know you don't have to do it, but that's really nice, and I've been grateful for it, because there was a couple here, because there were so many so quickly. There were a couple that AOPA didn't pick up on, and you guys let us know, and that was good. And so obviously, my first reaction to your query here would be to say thank you for what you've done, and encourage you to keep doing it, because I think that's been really helpful. And then and then among the people that I know who have, I know a lot of people who have had issues before, and I try to let my friends know if I know they're going to fly, just in case they didn't pick up on it. And of course, I had the same thing after I did it. People, they'd let me know, but maybe we can figure out a more formal way, or maybe through the Hangar Owners Association or something, that we can send out a little blast text to everybody to let them know. It is every pilot's responsibility to check the NOTAMs and to check for TFRs, but the FAA's website is not exactly friendly. I'm constantly looking on there, and it's difficult to get in there and find anything. And even when you're flying, to contact, any of the centers, even they won't know where the TFRs are. And about the only good thing we've got going for us nowadays is with your ADS-B and stuff that most airplanes are required to have. Usually it shows up in there, but sometimes that's a little too late. So, I think that's a good challenge for us, to try to come up with a way to put another level of safety there. Keep people from getting in trouble, because that's a real issue. Because we've all had close calls or something with that, because it's difficult to find it.
Anybody else?
Question. Do you want us to help enhance the existing program, or to offer advice on that, or implement it? Sorry.
Well, I was hoping for a situation, an alternate, sort of parallel type of situation where, I don't know, maybe like you said, get some of the hangar managers that'll communicate with their guys better than we can. But that would be independent of us. Naturally, I see us as getting the information, but if there's a deal where, like Mr. Goodfellow says, he gets the information on his phone from AOPA, and I don't get it, it would be good to have a way for that information to be disseminated without relying solely on the airport staff. And like TFRs and stuff like that can happen, and you've got, several hours notice. It was proven to be pretty ridiculous this year, how that worked.
At a bigger airport, who accepts the responsibility? Is there one entity or one person, or what do they do?
No,
it's pilot's responsibility. We're just trying to help out the pilots. We're just trying to help out, our tenant family, if you will. I don't know what you want to call them, but I really don't want to hear about some student pilot that takes off and he's flying to Gene and he gets intercepted by by an F-16 or something and he starts shooting flares at him, that's not a good situation. And so if we can get that information, broadcast out, whether it's, whoever, that's what I'd like to see.
You can't use the Unicom for that at all?
I'm sorry.
You can't use the Unicom for that, I take it?
The AWAS?
Yeah, the AWAS.
I don't believe we have a record over on the AWAS, and besides,
I'm sure
I
on the AWAS,
don't know how to do that.
Isn't there special instructions around the last part of the AWAS?
Yeah,
something
there's,
was special
there's
happen?
remarks at the end. You can add remarks, but I don't know how difficult it is to get in there to do it, or even if it's legal to do it.
Yeah, that's my question, is it legal to do it?
I don't know, we could look into that, but, that might be something that we could look at, but, that still requires one of us to be cognizant of the whole situation.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for something in case, Marissa's on leave and I don't get the information or something like that. Then how does it get out?
Yeah. I sure appreciate Marissa's emails on that. It's been kind of a savior a few times, so thank you.
I'd also like to add is, you mentioned about the student pilot. I think that it goes even a lot further than the student pilot. This last one, just last week, I was getting ready just to get in the airplane and fire it up, and a friend of mine comes pulling up and says, "Hey, there's a TFR." So I'm a little bit past the student pilot, but it can happen to a very seasoned, very even to a very to a so-called professional or commercial pilot. It can really happen to anybody. I mean, we get, as we relax our, the beautiful day. I mean, obviously we can look out and it's a beautiful winter day or fall day that we enjoy here in the desert, and it's very easy to overlook all the NOTAMs and all that. So that's probably the best source. Obviously, is it's good. Check your NOTAMs first, but and like what Kurt said, is appreciate the information that you all forward to us. Now, if we a person like myself would pay attention to it, then I'd save myself from a lot of grief. But sure appreciate it.
But I understand what you're saying. So you say, you guys put it up there when you know it, but there are times when you don't know it or you haven't heard about it, and that's where, like I say, the only notice that I get for most TFRs is just what I get from AOPA, and it does seem interesting that there isn't something available to you folks as airport personnel that would receive that. And so I'll try to, maybe we can collectively try to dig up a little information on how best to do that. Because I'm always more than happy to forward. If this is just a suggestion, but if I get something from AOPA and they seem fairly reliable, anything that's even close, I'll get stuff for LA, for Phoenix, for here, for Salt Lake, for in the region. If anything is going to affect us, it might not be a bad idea to have, just to pop it over to Rich Moynihan and have him put it out to the population or to you, because you guys have everybody's information. I could pop it over to you and if you've got it, you've already got it, great. If you don't, you can put it out there, because that would help. I think appreciate you bringing it up, because that would help a lot. And I didn't realize that, when it happened to me, it's been several years ago, but when it did, I kind of ignorantly blamed the airport for not, letting, I didn't blame the airport, but I kind of did. I'm like, hey, nobody said anything to me. And I was stupid enough that I didn't notice that nobody else was flying and that none of the tour guys were flying. And it was just really early in the morning and I took off. So now we understand a little bit better, hearing what you've got to say here, that there are times when you might not even be aware. And so I'll commit to getting that out to you when I get it. I just got to remember to do that. I know that's not fail-safe, but it's better than nothing. And then I'll do a little research, and if you guys want to, and if we can find a better way to do it, there's got to be something better than just trusting every single pilot to check the NOTAMs every time. And that is what we're supposed to be doing, but a lot of people don't do it. you know.
Just to add also is the computer or the iPad programs like ForeFlight, FlyQ. There's other ones. I know FlyQ does have or did have the TFR at that given day that I was going to go out. Now, obviously you're still relying on them to put it up, but just for it showed the Class Bravo airspace and it showed it all in red. On the ForeFlight program. So it is, so obviously if you do see that, beware and, look further into it. It's it's a good red flag for you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No,
All right.
not on that.
Okay, so let's go to discussion of future items in the scope of resolution 6740. And it appears that was probably Gary, you probably jumped the gun on your comment. But if you want to elaborate more, that's here we go.
Well, what do we do except meet once a quarter? I hear the request for our being more active. I hear from many meetings that I've been at about how not a lot of happiness anyplace, not that we can necessarily create it, nor did we necessarily cause it, but we talk. I think the time for talking has ended, and we have to start doing. Just like the discussion we just finished, there's a problem. We're being asked to assist or to help, and are saying, yep, great idea, we got to help or assist. It doesn't do anything. So you've said you will. I will be more than happy to get involved with all of it. I think the focus needs to be changed a bit. I don't mean that as a criticism. Okay, I just mean I think we need to start over with something, or not rebuild the whole thing, just modify it, change the alignment, whatever words you'd like to use, just to make it better. And I think we can. I think we all can. I listen to the audience and they're unhappy. Okay, well, our job is not necessarily to make them happy, but our job is to come up with possible solutions, ideas where, as Rodney used to say in California, can't we all just get along? That's my comment about this whole category we're in.
Anything else?
With regard to this, when this came out, we had a discussion with the mayor about it, and there, he kind of wanted to do away with the committee altogether. But when we look at this resolution, it's really easy to ask ourselves, why are we even doing this? Do we really need this? And I commented then, and I still believe that this does provide a voice for the users of the airport. And like I say, everybody's a little bit sore from what's happened. And but on the other hand, like Gary says, we still have to work together. We still have to figure out ways to take care of the issues that happen at the airport, and to plan for some of the things. And obviously, this discussion about the TFRs is one of them, and it's a good one. But until the city council decides that they want more, that they want more participation in airport decision making from the, and I'm not saying that we make decisions, but more, if they're going to listen to and implement the suggestions from the AAC, it's going to be difficult. And this document here doesn't give us any teeth. And I do understand that the city doesn't really want us to have any teeth, but I still believe that it's valuable to have these meetings, even if they're short, and I don't think we need to have them any more often than we do. But I do think it's a good forum for people to be able to express their concerns and allow us to discuss things and try to affect some change. And until the time that the city wants to ask for more, at least we have that. And so I don't think it's, like I say, I'm not sure what to ask for more other than actually having the ability to make decisions, and I don't think we're going to see that.
So, well, your permission.
No, go ahead.
I'd like to add that I was looking for agenda items for the next meeting that we have in, I believe it's February, but we have to schedule that. But one of the things is that you're not, as designed, the AAC is not representatives of the tenants at the airport. You're representatives more of the city. Your task is to work with city staff and city council, and represent them, and also look at various problems, with the airport, but not really representatives of the tenants. In the airports I've been at, this is my 5th airport, and we've always had an aviation advisory committee, but separate of that, there was tenants were represented by their own entity, and so that worked pretty good, and it takes you guys out of the situation of conflict of interest, because that's basically what we end up with here, because your hangar owners or tenants at the airport, business owners, so you have some real, you got a horse in the race with that, but then you're on the other side as the Aviation Advisory Committee, and it just kind of muddies the thing. So, I'm not saying don't look at this and go forward with something, but I'm just expressing that there's a concern out there that this is what you are by design, and this is what you're representing over here, and it gets muddy in the middle. So that's really the only thing I wanted to mention there, is ask for you to be cognizant of that situation. So.
Thank you for that. I for one, I understand what you're saying there, and there's a lot of truth to that. And if you recall from one of our last meetings, I mentioned that I got a talking to about that by the city attorney and the city manager, and I understand what you're saying. We kind of have two hats here, and our hat up here is we're trying to help the city make decisions that are good for the city. So that point is well taken, at least by me. Thank you for that. Something we need to think about.
I think, though, just to add on to that, though, is just because we're hangar owners or we're business owners or whatever, that I think that it probably would be unwise to say, well, you're inherently biased so that you're going to give a bad opinion. That is not, and I'm not accusing you of saying this, is that, so therefore, we also are not going to act on the best interest of the city or that. And so, like I said, I'm not accusing you of saying that. And so but I think that they can go hand in hand, that just because we have such a vested interest in our hangars or our airport, that we actually, it probably would be a good idea, at least someone to say, okay, these people are here to stay. And so instead of just summarily dismissing something simply because you just, and say, well, it's easy to dismiss them because they're biased. Anyway, that's what I'd just like to add to that. And I'm sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay. So I think that it goes on a little bit further than that, you know, I mean, saying that just because you have a hangar down there, you're going to make a flawed decision is seriously not my intent. But if you look at it in another situation, you've got this stuff going on, and suppose there's stuff that happens down the road. I got no idea what, but I'm being hypothetical here. And now you end up with somebody from outside the area looking in, and they're going, well, gee whiz, what's this? It muddies the waters. That's really all I'm saying. And, you know, the other part of it, Matt, is I'd offer up the opportunity to discuss all this with you, and I mean, and not with the whole AAC because of the meetings rules, but you know, if you got time sometime, I'd like to discuss this and maybe, you know, just share my ideas a little bit better than sitting here right now, because I haven't written anything out, and I like to have a note with me to make sure I'm staying on track.
I'll address a little bit later on and kind of expand on what you just said, but go ahead.
To what you said, you know, here again, I understand what you're saying. I do get that, and we do have that group of hangar owners, you know, represented by Rich Moynihan being the president of the Hangar Owners Association. That's kind of that group that you're talking about, right? And that's a good thing. You know, I'm in favor of that as well. And I agree that we, as a group, you know, we are kind of representing the city here. We need to look for ways to do that in an unbiased way. And like I say, sometimes we're biased, and sometimes I feel like we're really not. And just because the city, if they decide to do something different than what we recommend, that doesn't, I mean, that just is what it is, you know. So anyway, that's all I got to say, but I appreciate what you're saying.
Okay, so anything else to add? Okay, so let's go to discussion of the 2021 AAC calendar meetings. Open up for discussion.
So this is really just to go over the meeting dates for next year. If we'll keep them the same as we did this year. We did it the second month of each quarter. That seemed to work out better, not hitting all the holidays. So if just to see if you guys had if you saw any conflict with that and keeping it that way. We won't have election year next year. So that'll be good.
I'm perfectly okay with keeping it the way it is and just keep going the way we are. That's what I
have to agree.
Okay.
This is just a suggestion I'll throw out there. Being that we really have no support by the city council, I suggest that we limit, I mean, we don't even have a next meeting. We vacate the meeting, and then hopefully when we get better city council members on board that will actually be concerned about the airport, that we proceed on. So we just skip this next meeting. And that's just my suggestion.
I would make a motion that we keep the meeting schedule as it is, and then like we've done in the past, we have the discussion before the next one, and we elect to vacate it if we feel like that's the right thing to do. And that's, you know, I think that vacating a meeting we would do, we'd have a discussion between the chairman and yourselves and say, you know, do we have anything we want to talk about? No, we don't. And then we vacate at that point. Or do you think now would be the time to decide to vacate the next meeting? I'd be okay either way. But I would like to continue with a schedule of some kind, and I do like the way we're doing that. And like I said, I'm okay with vacating and just stipulating that now to vacate the next meeting. But on the other hand, if something came up we wanted to talk about, we could make that decision just before the meeting, you know?
Well, we can always have a special meeting.
Okay.
That's also within our scope.
Okay,
So it's not that, I believe that's in there,
okay,
that any of these groups can have, request a special meeting. The reason why I just said that is that, if you call this the AAC, the Airport Advisory Committee, I think we just have we can speak, but we don't have any ears. And so if there's no ears and there's really no concern, I think that the dog park probably has better access and, concerns of the city council than the airport. And so I just don't see it as, do we really have better things to do than than try and be here for something that really we have no audience? And I'm just throwing that out there and just attempting to be honest with this.
Mr. Chairman, in line with that, and I agree, okay? For the police department here in town, I'm handling their their volunteer program under a city employee. And I got about 27 volunteers that come out and do many things for the city. They do them because they're getting a certain amount of enjoyment or satisfaction out of the program, and what they do as far as being able to help others. What I've heard, what I'm hearing, is a lot of frustration, a lot of dissatisfaction, and if we can't get anything out of this program, it's got to be emotional or mental. There's no chance for salaries. But if we can't get something that satisfies our needs, why do we show up? Why don't we resign and let someone else maybe do it? It's just a question. It's neither right nor wrong nor any type of accusations.
Now, with that, I really want to clarify kind of my position, because I think unfortunately we'll immediately be branded as we think that we are some sort of legislative body. And I fully understand we are not. And I have no intention of being. And I have just, all I want to be here is just for advice, be part of the process that we can improve the airport. And I think that has nothing to do with it. So I just really want to clarify that that's the reason why I'm bringing this up. But with that is, I just look at it as, the realities of, clearly we're not, there's really no desire on the council level. In fact, we are just more of just a hindrance, or we're just more of a irritation. That's what I'm seeing. And that's my point.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, believe me, as far as the council and the way they look at us. I'm just saying, why do we do this if we're not getting anything out of it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree. We've talked about this amongst ourselves here and there, but I still think it's valuable. I still enjoy doing it, and I think we all do. And with that, I would just for this agenda item, I would just move that I'll just make a motion that we go ahead and adopt this schedule as we always have done, or as it's presented here, but that we vacate the next meeting unless we feel like there's something that comes up, in which case we'll call a special meeting.
Anyone to second the motion?
I simply want to say that I think we should keep on fighting and keep on trying to get the message through. I don't like to give up, so that's my say in it.
Okay, was that a second?
Yeah, second.
So is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And what was it, nay? Any nays?
Nay.
Nope, nay. Okay, so the motion carries 3-1. Okay, so then it leads us to public comment. Anybody want to comment on this? And the phone number is 702-589-9629. And Bob?
Test, test. Yeah, thanks. Bob Fonestock, again, BFE, Boulder City Airport Properties. Difficult to watch, very difficult. I can't believe we even brought up the two individuals that were just recently terminated and what their thoughts on how we should act or how we should feel. Kurt, you should have no guilt whatsoever. The commercial operators at this airport, times 3 leaseholds, all got their leases renewed. You guys, as private hangar owners, who just happen to also be dedicating some free volunteer time to this city to try to educate those that run it, we're not protecting your interest. You're telling the city what's best for this city. If commercial guys get the leases renewed, so should the private guys. Come on. It's just simple. It's fair. The 2 people that were scolding you got fired. I can't believe Willie is bringing them up, and you should be concerned. I mean, think about it. If you're the mayor of this town and you're not happy with the electric bill and you're a citizen of this town, you don't have a conflict of interest because you're the mayor and you're going to change the potential cost of the electric. You're concerned for citizens of this city, and you might just happen to be the mayor. I mean, I cannot believe you desperately pleaded with these people to put something on the agenda. They refused. They just asked you guys a favor and you just jumped through the highest hoops to help them out. I mean, it's just baffling. This city needs this. And the reason it needs it is because we're all hoping one day that they'll take us serious. Because we know a hell of a lot more than any of they do about the airport or ever will know. It's baffling to me that we're having this conversation. This is extremely important committee. It should have more than just advisory. It should have some teeth. And then the airport would be run correctly and wouldn't be losing thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars on fueling and litigation with myself and running off the skydive guys, loss of fuel. I mean, we used to flow 2 million gallons of gas. Now what, we're flowing 150,000 a year? I mean, come on. The city got $3 million grant. I reduced my tenant's rent from the 100% they used to pay to 25%. How much did the city reduce my rent? 0. But they're sitting on $3 million that they got grant money, and they still got full staff. The airport's a ghost town. I mean, Will, you want to work with us? Get out your budget and get us together and let's look at your budget. That's number one. You want to work with us? Let's get the skydive guys jumping again. Let's get him jumping. You ran him off the airport because you charge him more for an LZ, a piece of dirt, than I charge him for a hangar. I mean, does that make sense? 5,000 square foot hangar, commercial hangar space with all the amenities of a commercial space, and the city's charging him more for a piece of dirt? Is that us? Is that Boulder City? Is that something this advisory board would recommend? No, they don't recommend it, but you're still doing it. Why? It makes no sense. None of this conversation tonight makes any sense to me. You make plenty of sense when you're saying, why are we doing this? We're all hoping one day that they'll listen and not have the liability that they have with the fuel, with the skydivers, with myself, with the private hangar owners. I mean, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I think that's you, Mark, behind that mask.
Yeah. Mark Delaney, Boulder City hangar owner. Sorry I wasn't here earlier. I was actually didn't know we could come in, but found out we could. I was listening to on the podcast, and they were asking about the last time we had an event at the Boulder City Airport. I actually ran that event. It was in 2009. It was the last Boulder Airport Day at Boulder City Airport, and we had stack displays, Young Eagles, aerobatic, skydiving. We had the whole works. And it was a fun day. We had a nice. In fact, I think that was the time we had. I can't think of her name right now, but anyway. So if there's going to be an activity, if you want to organize an activity, then I think the impetus has to come from the city that they want to do something, and then there has to be some enticement for those who want to put it together, because it's a lot of work. And one of the problems we had last time that we would still have now is if the tour groups are operating, it's a little bit of a conflict having tour groups when you're trying to do an air show type of thing. Anyway, the other thing we talked about, John, I know you heard John Gustafson's comments from earlier, and he has good ideas about how to organize or help provide input, at least to the airport manager. Would it be possible that maybe the airport advisory committee, perhaps at the next meeting or whenever we have it, can you create or can you advise or can we have a committee or a commission or something that will look at how best to help the city with making proper decisions about our airport? Whether it be, we change it where we go to, advising the airport manager, or we have an airport commission where actually you guys, the airport commission, would have teeth and do the hiring and firing of the airport manager and run the finances and so forth, which is a good way for, how many airports run. But perhaps we need to look at a study or however we want to do it, but how we can go forward. Because I agree, if we're just meeting the, jaw and then nothing ever happens, then we're just kind of spinning our wheels in the sand. So perhaps we can, make that suggestion or go forward. That's all. Thank you.
Mark, I'm not going to comment. I just want to have you read the resolution 6740? Yeah, because that's just what we're governed by as this AAC. And so this is, certainly this is what city staff, and they're saying, this is what, we're limited to what we can really discuss, what we can do, and what, and it has to, and it's proposed duties of the AAC, and it goes A through H.
Correct.
And so that's pretty much just what the AAC does. So I don't see anywhere here in this resolution that, and I've read Mr. Gustafson's suggestions, that we can really take it up or do anything on the AAC level. That's my understanding. Maybe there could be a different opinion here, but that's just what I understand.
I agree with you. Perhaps but you can discuss amongst yourself the function of the AAC and perhaps bring it to the city council as so we don't think we're being utilized in a proper manner. And perhaps the city council can then designate, so okay, let's find a way to go forward and make this a viable committee where it's useful for everybody, the city and the airport.
Yeah, it is. They're pretty vague. It says F is the committee may consider, investigate, make findings, and report to recommend any special matter or question within the scope of its work. Whatever that means, so that could very well be considered that, I guess. I don't know. But so this, just like what I mentioned earlier, is, I as a chairman can bring something up, but this is a kind of AAC somewhat unique because it literally is, we can make a request as an AAC to have something put on the agenda, and then it can just be like, nope, we're not putting it on. Right. So we really don't have any ability. If city staff chooses not to put it on the agenda, there's nothing apparently that we can do, especially if we don't have any backing by city council.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. It would seem like city council would either want, pertinent advice and guidance or just do away with it.
I don't know. Do you know our mayor? He apparently knows everything.
Well, yes. Thank you very much.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, I guess we could have any comments. Anybody? Go ahead.
My comment, and I guess it's a philosophy as far as committees or things like this, I take what they've given us and has been around for all this time as guidelines, suggestions, ideas, parameters that we should be operating under. I've always had the philosophy of I'd rather ask for forgiveness after the fact than permission. What I keep on hearing, and there's nothing wrong with it, is we want permission first. We don't grasp, we don't go any farther. That's not wrong. I've done that. Things change. Everybody's slightly different. But I'd rather go, oops, gee, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, fire my ass. I'm sorry, fire me. Then just sit back and do nothing. That's all. Thank you.
Anything else?
Just real quick, thank you for that, Gary. I think that when we were going through the whole hangar thing, and I am speaking, and I was speaking then as a representative from the city. And by the way, it was me that brought up the city manager and the city attorney. It wasn't Willie. That was me, I think, that brought that up, and what Bob was talking about. But anyway, they were the ones that told me that. So when we gave them advice during this whole hangar takeover thing and the fuel thing, we were forthright and we were aggressive. We really tried to help and give advice, and it fell on deaf ears, and that's why Matt's hoping, and we all hoping for a future city council that wants to be a little bit more involved, or that cares about the future of the airport. It obviously, our city council and our mayor now, it's not their thing. They voted 4-1 against reason and against sound advice that was given to them by 5 people that know what they're doing, and a lot of other people obviously who called in that as Bob says are more experienced by a long shot in airport in airport things. So we're a little sore from that, but we still want to help, and like you said, we want to keep up the fight. We want to keep finding ways to help, but we are hoping at some point for a city council that would be more pro-airport.
Anything else? Any other comments? All right, so I've really thought hard about what I'm about to say. And one of the things that this has been a long process after getting involved, that I just couldn't figure out what was the motivations, what took place in the last year, who made the decisions, what was happening. And to be quite honest, I was pretty upset. I was very upset with city staff. And so last May, I put a request for Freedom of Information Act. And I requested that I was going to get emails, or I requested emails from every city staff and communication to and from city staff to the council members. And I was quite surprised, reading the emails going back and forth. And I'd like to just share one. This is from Al Noyola to Kiernan McManus, Monday, February 3rd, 2020. And it says, Mayor, staff is intending to bring forward recommendations to the council by early March, likely to stay the current policy course of reversion or extending the contracts of these hangars with renewed language and fees increased for land lease. We're also awaiting draft rental agreements from the consultants should the council decide to keep the policy of reversion in place. So when I read that, I thought, well, my previous assumptions that city staff was promoting and wanting to take these hangars was clearly wrong. And then what I read afterwards, it was pretty clear that we had a mayor who, that's all he wanted. That was his intentions. Anybody who dared, or not dare, but just wrote a letter in his direction or wanted it, with his own bias, he wanted to take the hangars. That was his deal. So I think what I need to do is I have an apology to the city staff, the airport staff. I think I was wrong. And I do. I was wrong, and I will admit it here. I also saw emails that I've heard other people say. Brock Armitrod, his name comes up continuously as a conspiracy theory that he is somehow involved in the airport. And his emails were very clear. He said, I don't really have a whole lot to do with the airport. The interaction, and so I just have to go by what the email said in the FOIA request. So I just really want to get this information out, because I think it's important that we don't make decisions based on rumor, but we try and make decisions based on facts. And that's the important part, because certainly, like myself, we can be wrong when we make wrong assumptions. And with that, if there's any other statements or questions or concerns, I have just so we can adjourn the meeting. Okay, well, thank you all for coming.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. Second. And let's see, I guess that means we all agree, right? All right, we agree to adjourn.